Hi fellow logicians, welcome to Logical Christ channel. In this video we will be continuing to review on logical reactions on how confused Muhammad Hijab is on his Islamic views. This is volume 6 video. Sit back and relax. We will be back after this short intro.
In terms of peers, I would categorize him as a person who has heavy hands but a glass jaw, in the sense that if you really push him, if you ask him questions in a corner, he will find it difficult to answer the questions that he likes to ask everybody else. And the reason for that is simply because he's not morally consistent, he's only strategically consistent. It has been said that the reason why he's acting in this way, and he can't bring himself to condemn the killing of civilians in Gaza, one of the most populated areas in the world with civilians, is because he knows that will get under the skin of his masters, which shows lack of backbone. It shows lack of integrity, that he's not integrous, he's not morally principled in that manner. And in fact, it shows that he doesn't have a moral compass, and that anyone could maybe give him money to say whatever they want him to say.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that others lack a moral compass for not condemning specific civilian deaths. This is a hypocritical position for Muhammad Hijab to take. He refuses to condemn the immoralities taught in the Qur'an or the actions of his prophet. Christians will never acknowledge the historical killings committed by Muslims, while Muhammad Hijab ignores his own scripture. Our moral compass is Jesus Christ, who taught love. The Quran instead focuses on the subjugation of those who do not follow Allah. If Muhammad Hijab truly cared about universal morality, he would address the perverted instructions within the Sunnah. Instead, he uses the suffering of others to distract from the flaws of Islam. Christians remain rooted in the eternal holiness of Jesus' truth.
The political objectives that Israel has set for itself right now is to destroy and nullify and annihilate Hamas. Now, the problem with that objective is that Hamas is not just a group of people, 30 or 50,000 fighters. Hamas is effectively an ideology. And Elon Musk said it correctly when he said that when you kill one Hamas, you create another. And as you see, people have seen their own children or their own siblings being killed are more likely to join Hamas, according to all kind of political and psychological theories, than ever before. So I think the objective that they've set for themselves should have been thought more closely about, because now they've made it impossible for themselves. Beating Hamas is almost an impossible. It's like catching a ghost, effectively.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Hamas is an ideology that is impossible to beat. He correctly identifies that the terror of Hamas is rooted in an ideology. This ideology comes directly from the Quran, which commands Muslims to fight all non-believers. The Quran mandates that Muslims must fight and subjugate others until all religion is for Allah alone, Quran 8:39. This provides a theological foundation for perpetual conflict. Muhammad Hijab admits that this violent mindset is central to the Islamic world. Christians understand that this ideology seeks to dominate the entire globe through force. By calling it unbeatable, Muhammad Hijab is boasting about the aggressive nature of Islam. He confirms that the goal of his religion is the total destruction of opposition.
If you look at the Israeli figures, as reported by The Guardian, and said that quote-unquote dozens of Hamas fighters have been killed. Now, just to think about that for a second, according to their own figures, from the 7th of October, almost 400 IDF people have been killed, and 340 of them by Hamas. Now, what does that mean? It means that pound for pound, there have been more IDF that have been killed by Hamas than Hamas by IDF, by the admission and by the numbers of the IDF. Now, that's pretty shocking statistics, considering the ratio of combatant to non-combatant death that IDF has subjected the population to is exactly 100 to 1, or more than that, in fact, because there's 10,000 people that have been killed, and if we are liberal with our estimate, we say 100 people from Hamas are killed according to the IDF, then that's literally 1%, which is 100 to 1 ratio, which is no longer collateral damage. 100 to 1 ratio, civilian to combatant ratio, cannot be said to be collateral damage anymore.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that civilian casualties are unacceptable and irrational. His interpretation of figures is deeply flawed. Since Hamas is an ideology, many fighters merge into the civilian population. This makes Muhammad Hijab's claims about civilian ratios quite unreliable. This war was started by the ideology of hatred toward Jews found in the Quran. Allah describes the Jews as the most intense in enmity, Quran 5:82. This divine resentment fuels the current violence and the refusal to coexist. Christians observe that Muhammad Hijab ignores how Islamic groups use civilians as shields. He blames others for the consequences of a war rooted in the Quran's commands. The blood of the innocent is a result of Islamic religious aggression.
There is reason to believe that the intention of the IDF obviously is to kill as many civilians as possible, as per what they've said themselves, like Daniel Hagari, Gottlieb, and one of the guys who got suspended, I forget his name, but who said nuking the place. There's clear intention there that's coming out. So for them, I think in their mind, killing civilians is a victory, killing children for them is a victory. They've got exactly the terrorist mentality on this matter.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that the intention of a terrorist is only to kill civilians. If that is the definition, then the Quran is a terrorist handbook. It explicitly instructs Muslims to be harsh and to kill non-believers in many verses. Allah commands Muslims to strike the necks of those who disbelieve, Quran 47:4. This is a clear mandate for violence against civilians and soldiers alike. Muhammad Hijab condemned terrorism while holding a book that promotes such brutal physical warfare. Christians follow Jesus Christ, who told his followers to love their enemies. Muhammad Hijab follows a book that tells him to destroy them. The intention of Islam is the total subjugation of the human race through fear and the sharp sword.
In order to try and subjugate the Palestinians, they can't have them as part of the state. They can't have a two-state solution. So they effectively have to have them between two situations. Situation A is they can't be part of the state, and situation B is they can't have their own statehood. So here, this is, if not apartheid, even worse than actually apartheid, because I don't think South Africa had this state of affairs where, 10,000 people were killed in 22 days in this way. And so people that are on this side of history, that they're talking about supporting Israel's right to defend itself, and that's all they're talking about, and they won't even bring themselves like peers to condemn Israel. I have to ask the question, how could it be conceivable? How is it intelligible? How is it conceptually possible to support unequivocally a state like Israel and not to be racist?
Muhammad Hijab asserts that supporting the state of Israel is racist. This is an irrational claim designed to manipulate Western emotions. If Muhammad Hijab truly condemned racism, he would start with the Quran, which contains many verses filled with hatred. Allah is consistently racist and hateful toward the Jewish people in the Quran. He turns some into apes and swine for their disobedience. Quran 5:60. This spiritual bigotry is far more dangerous than any political support for a sovereign nation. Christians believe that God loves all people equally, but Islam creates a hierarchy. Muhammad Hijab uses the word racist as a weapon, while his own religion curses a specific ethnic group daily. His rhetoric is a mask for his scriptural prejudice.
Allah says in Qur'an, is there any respite for us, or is there any result for us, except for the two good things? Two good things, either victory or shame. How can you lose? The biggest winners in the world today are the people in Gaza, because they're in between two things, victory and martyrdom. The biggest losers in the world today are those Israeli Zionists who are killing those people, because they are being exposed as the most dishonorable and cowardly people I've ever read about, with a 100-to-1 ratio of combatant to non-combatant death. How could it be that Hamas is killing more IDF than the IDF is killing Hamas? And to get your anger out, you're killing the children. According to the IDF figures, Hamas has killed more of them, i.e. the IDF, than they've killed Hamas. How? That means you don't want to fight. That means you're a coward.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that victory belongs to Gaza through martyrdom. This level of hypocrisy is staggering. Gazan Muslims started the war by attacking Israel, yet Muhammad Hijab cries out as if they are innocent martyrs when the Jewish state responds. Hamas just followed the Quranic command to fight non-believers and spread terror. The Quran encourages this behavior by promising paradise to those who die in the cause of Allah. This creates a culture that celebrates death over productive life. Christians see that Muhammad Hijab values the destruction of his own people for a political goal. He ignores that the aggression began with an Islamic assault. Victory in Christ is found in life, not in the senseless slaughter of civilians.
There's never been a war in history that has been won by killing women and children. Let that sink in for a second. There's never been a war in history that has been won on killing women and children. Can't win wars by killing women and children. And they're killing them and killing them and killing them. Let's be real about this for a second. How much of the population are they killing? Not even 1%. It will take them 10 years to rebuild the population even more. So even that is a weak strategy, because you kill 12,000 of them. The Palestinian women, mashallah, they have 3, 4 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids, 7, because of anger, just to show the enemy. So actually the population is increasing. It's a failed strategy. To destroy some buildings, you think you're winning a war by destroying buildings and killing children. You're losing the war. You're losing everything. You're losing credibility in front of the international community. That's what's happening.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that no war in history was won by destroying buildings and killing women. This rhetoric should be addressed to Muslims. Throughout history, Islamic armies have constantly destroyed cities and killed innocent women and children during expansion. Modern Islamic terrorism, like the 9/11 attacks, specifically targeted buildings and civilians. Muhammad Hijab ignores the long history of Islamic atrocities to paint others as the aggressors. The Qur'an permits the destruction of enemy property during a holy war. Christians know that Islam was spread primarily through the sword and the destruction of civilizations. Muhammad Hijab tries to rewrite history to favor his narrative. His book justifies the very actions he now claims to find unacceptable in modern warfare.
I saw a particular video with one idea. He was sitting down saying, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. Coward! I don't want to go, I don't want to go. But you want to be on a plane and press the button. Wallahi, he's worse than a coward. And Allah is exposing even within the ummah the rotten elements, isn't he? And that's one of the hikam and the wisdoms. Allah is distinguishing al-khabith, the impure, from the pure. And he's accumulating and aggregating the pure things together. And then he'll put them all into the hellfire. And they're all losers. That's what the Qur'an says. So we are starting to see this guy here, this Muslim over there, this one over there. He's a traitor to the cause. He's a traitorous person. He's against the Palestinians. It's an X-ray. It's an MRI. We're starting to see everything now. This mas'ala, this issue has shown us who's with us and shown us who's against us.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Allah is distinguishing the pure from the impure through the conflict. By involving Allah and the Quran, Muhammad Hijab illustrates that this war is rooted in an Islamic ideology. He views the Jews as impure. This distinction between pure Muslims and impure non-believers is a central theme in the Quran. Allah calls the polytheists unclean in verse 928. This dehumanizing language is what leads to the violence Muhammad Hijab now defends as a spiritual process. Christians believe that all people have sinned, but all are loved by God. Muhammad Hijab promotes a theology of exclusion and impurity. This mindset ensures that there will never be peace as long as the Quran is followed as truth.
The weasel manipulator, the coward, the liar, the academic failure. And he said to Joe Rogan,
Israel has never, not one time in history, initiated any conflict. Every single one of those things that you're pointing to is a retaliatory attack by a terrorist organization.
a person who is a non-specialist or an ignoramus or a propagandist would consider this to be factual information. He said is that Israel never initiated any kind of conflict. Well, think of the following. Before 1948, where was Israel anyway? Israel was not an entity. So how did it come to be an entity? Do you think that Israel or the Zionists in what would then be called Israel were able to establish for themselves a state without conflict? Do you think that? Do you think that's what happened? Well, if you do think that, then you're more ignorant than you sound. Because actually, if you read any book, even those from the secondary source materials of Zionist historians, what you've said is actually false on so many different grounds.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Israel initiated the conflict in 1948. This is a lie. The United Nations proposed a partition plan, which the Jewish leadership accepted. It was the Palestinian Muslim leadership and surrounding Arab states that rejected peace. The Arab states initiated a military invasion to destroy the new Jewish state immediately. Israel just accepted the legal boundaries, but Muslims stirred the conflict through aggression. Muhammad Hijab ignores this historical reality to paint the Jewish people as colonizers. Christians recognize that the Jews were defending their ancestral homeland from Islamic erasure. The 1948 war was an attempt by Muslims to fulfill the Quran's command to kill the Jews. Muhammad Hijab's version of history is a complete religious fabrication.
The people of Gaza, before the situation took place in 2023, they were attempting peaceful means to try and get their voice heard by the international community. And even in those peaceful means, just like we saw in the Intifada and other things before it, the cruel and the terroristic IDF killed Palestinian civilians, 223 of them. So much so that human rights organizations detailed this in great detail, this matter.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Israel started the 2023 conflict by killing civilians. This is a half-truth. It was Hamas, governed by Islamic ideology, that started it with a massive slaughter. The Hamas Charter explicitly calls for the total destruction of Israel. The destruction of Israel echoes the Quran's hatred toward the Jewish people. Hamas was acting on the instructions of Allah to fight until religion is for Islam alone. Muhammad Hijab defends the aggressor while blaming the victim for their response. Christians see that the ruins of Gaza are the direct result of Hamas's actions. Muhammad Hijab tries to hide the fact that Islamic hatred caused this disaster. The tragedy is a consequence of following a book that mandates perpetual holy war.
I've been told I sound like Hitler, unfortunately. And I want to send a message to the German people. Oh, Deutschland! Lasst euch nicht wieder täuschen! Richtig! Richtig! Ja, Mann!
Muhammad Hijab joked that he sounds like Hitler, but this comparison is deeper than a mere jest. Muhammad Hijab reflects the spirit of anti-Semitism that Adolf Hitler exploited. Historically, Hitler used the Islamic world as a geopolitical tool against the Allies. Adolf Hitler praised Islam to critique the perceived weakness of the German Church. Admiring the Islamic martial spirit, Muhammad Hijab taps into this same aggressive energy. The Quran fuels this by describing the Jews as the most intense in enmity. Christians reject such comparisons because our faith is built on love, not hatred or geopolitical dominance. Muhammad Hijab is following a historical pattern where Islamic rhetoric aligns with totalitarian ideologies. This reveals a dangerous desire to eliminate the Jewish people entirely.
The Prophet told us in the end of days we will re-establish ourselves and that victory will come. And many of us, despite these predictions and despite the track record of perfect predictions of the Prophet, some of us have wahan and doubt and shak and raib. We shouldn't have any doubt because this is a promise that the Muslims will unite once again and that they will be strong once again so that this doesn't happen to us. The question is not if the Muslims are going to be victorious, whether Palestinians are going to be victorious and so on. The question is when. And a further question is whether me and you are going to be a part of that.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that victory will come and questions the Muslim part in it. This echoes the Quran's call for Muslims to be dominant in the world for Allah. The goal is to establish a global caliphate through physical power. While Christians are already victors in Jesus Christ, we do not base our victory on the political or martial world. Our kingdom is not of this earth. Muhammad Hijab, however, remains focused on the earthly subjugation of all non-Muslim nations. Allah commands Muslims to fight until there is no more fitna and religion is for Allah alone. Quran 8:39. This is the victory Muhammad Hijab seeks. It is a victory of the sword and of legalism over human freedom and grace.
The message that needs to be portrayed, because I understand that many of us have become intimidated. They have become intimidated by their labeling. They label us as extremists and terrorists and anti-Semites. And they do all these things to try and intimidate us from speaking the truth about what's happening in Palestine and Gaza. But they are the ones who are falling into the same mistake again. Olaf Scholz, who proclaims, just like many of the politicians, that the reason for a country like Germany to exist, in fact, is to help or allow Israel to exist. How humiliating. A country so big, so strong, with such manufacturing, the third largest GDP in the world, that the only reason for your existence, the only reason that you exist, is to protect the state of Israel by any means necessary. How humiliating, how degrading.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that it is humiliating for any country to support the state of Israel. Here, Muhammad Hijab echoes Allah's hatred toward Israel recorded throughout the Quran. He holds a deep spiritual resentment for the people of the covenant. Ironically, Islam claims continuity with the message of Yahweh, while simultaneously mocking his people. The Quran describes Jews as those who incurred wrath, Quran 1:7. Muhammad Hijab cannot reconcile his supposed respect for prophets with his hatred for Israel. Christians recognize that God's promises to Israel are eternal. Muhammad Hijab attempts to shame nations for supporting the Jewish state. But his motivation is purely religious. He wants to see the people of Israel permanently humbled and under Islamic rule.
We as Muslim people, we have special things. And this is something that nobody else can buy, nobody else can have, nobody else can acquire. Number one, we have faith. Now, I want you to think about something for a second. If all of the armies in the world come together, they can imprison us, they could torture us, they could kill us, they could destroy us. However, what they can't take from you, what they can't take from me, is my faith. They can't take our iman. It's logically impossible. And then after having that ingrained, imbued, embedded, instilled into your heart and into your mind, you also have a tawakkul, the reliance of Allah, that you realize that in control of the whole world is not the American economy or the British economy or the German economy or the American army or the British army or the Israeli army, but it's Allah. He is the one controlling all of our affairs. Having iman and tawakkul on Allah, it gives you bravery, because then you are able to take risks you otherwise would not take. Because for other people, death is the end. For us, death is the beginning.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Muslims are special, and that death is just their beginning. The Quran emphasizes that Muslims are the best of people ever raised, Quran 3:110. This teaching is inherently supremacist and dismisses the value of other humans. The Quran encourages Muslims to embrace death for the cause of Allah. This creates a culture that devalues life in favor of martyrdom. Christians believe all are made in God's image, but Islam separates the world into two tiers. By claiming to be the best of creatures, Muhammad Hijab reveals the elitism of his faith. This mindset justifies the harsh treatment of non-believers. For Muhammad Hijab, the death of a Muslim is a promotion, while others face eternal humiliation.
Believing in the hereafter, how it makes you not only braver, but it gives you hope and resilience. Have you not seen those people in Gaza showing incredible resilience, which means patience? They have hope even though they are in the most hopeless situation. Is that not an inspiration? It must be. It is an inspiration to all of us. And Allah wants us to be inspired. Allah wants us to think about death. And what better way for all of us to wake up from our slumber than to see death staring us right in the face in the images that we're seeing. Allah doesn't do something without a reason. Remember this. Everything has a divine wisdom.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that believing in the hereafter makes Muslims brave and resilient. However, Islamic sources indicate that all Muslims must first go to hell. Quran 1971. There is no real hope or certainty for them in the afterlife. Muslims must hope that Allah decides to take them out of the fire later. This is a terrifying prospect, not a source of peace. In Jesus Christ, Christians are assured of a place in heaven because of his finished work. Muhammad Hijab offers a bravery based on a gamble. If his God is arbitrary, his bravery is misplaced. Christians face death with joy because our Savior has already defeated the grave. We do not fear a temporary stay in hell.
There's no way, let alone justify, the continual destruction of such civilians, such children, if anyone has humanity. However, the good news for us is that we believe and we hope that each and every single one of these people are martyrs, are shuhada, that they have been transported to the next life. They are with Allah, alive, being provided for. That these children, these women, these non-combatants, these defenseless people are alive. They are happy. Farihin. Allah is telling us they are happy. Allah is giving them something better. And Allah told us, وَلْيَتَّخِذْ مِنْكُمْ شُهَدَاءَ, that one of the reasons why this happens, calamities happens, so وَيَتَّخِذْ مِنْكُمْ شُهَدَاءَ, so he can take some martyrs from you. So he can give them the prestige of being at the higher echelons of Al-Jannah al-Firdaus. You see now how Allah has favored you with Al-Islam. You see now the blessing of Al-Islam.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that those who died in Gaza are martyred and happy. If Muhammad Hijab truly believes they are happy, he should be relaxed about the situation. Instead, he complains loudly about Gaza being in ruins and suffering. His message is inconsistent and reveals a deep contradiction. If martyrdom is the goal, then the ruins of Gaza should be celebrated as a victory. Muhammad Hijab cries out in anger while simultaneously claiming the victims have achieved their bliss. Christians value the life of every person and do not celebrate senseless death. Muhammad Hijab uses the concept of martyrdom as a political tool. He wants to have it both ways, glorifying death while using it to generate international sympathy.
The West has never been morally consistent. The West has only been strategically consistent. Why do we expect them to be moral? But now we will use this as an ample example. When they come and said, well, your prophet killed this, and you believed in that, and you did on this, and your religion is a religion of that. Say, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. You have no moral high. Get off your moral high ground. There is no moral high ground. Stop pretending that you're compassionate. Stop pretending that you care about the death of civilian people. Stop pretending that you're gonna civilize us. Stop pretending that you're anti-terrorism. You're anti-unstrategic terrorism. That's what you are. Stop pretending you don't like domination. You love it. You love domination everywhere. Whether it's geopolitics or in your own bedrooms where you do BDSM.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that the West has no moral high ground because of its support for Israel. Yet, Muhammad Hijab has no moral standard himself. He defends the immoral acts of his prophet and tolerates the historical atrocities of Islam. Muhammad Hijab shows a clear bias by focusing on modern politics while ignoring the violent commands of the Qur'an. He cannot claim morality while holding a book that permits slavery and the beating of wives. His critique is spiritually hollow. Christians judge morality by the timeless character of God. Muhammad Hijab judges it by what benefits Islamic expansion. He attacks the West to distract from the fact that his own system provides no true protection for human rights or dignity.
We all know this to be the truth, is that we're capable of breaking free from the chains. The Muslim people are one of, if not the biggest and strongest force in the world today. And do you know who knows that more than we do? The Americans know that. Just read their reports. American academics know that. Look at Samuel P. Huntington. Very famous book, Clash of Civilizations, where he says that civilization will clash on cultural lines, and that the big enemy will be, he states, the Islamic civilization. There are 7 civilizations in the world, he says. The big enemy is the Islamic civilization. There's going to be a massive clash. So what's the hidden message that Huntington and Bernard Lewis and all of these Orientalists of the modern age want to portray, want to give to their policymakers? The message is, keep the foot on this giant.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Muslims are the giant of civilization and the strongest force today. This magnifies the Quran's call for Muslims to be dominant. Muhammad Hijab relies on the sheer numbers of the Muslim population for his pride. Christians solely depend on Jesus Christ for our strength, not on demographic statistics or political power. We do not seek to be a giant civilization through force. Muhammad Hijab's focus on strength reveals the worldly nature of his religious goals. The Quran promises that Muslims will inherit the earth. Quran 24:55. Muhammad Hijab believes this is happening now. He values the quantity of followers over the quality of truth. This is a kingdom of man, not a kingdom of God.
Because really what Israel is a racially supremacist state. That's effectively what it is. It's Islam that gave certain kingdoms in certain areas the power, the strength. Anyone could get to the top. Turks got to the top. Persians got to the top, Arabs got to the top, Black Africans got to the top. Take, for example, the Mali Empire, right? Mansa Musa, everyone knows his name. I mean, he's seen by some historians as the richest man who ever lived. Black man and an African kingdom he reigned over. No one can say that, well, the Muslims colonized him, because if anything, he was the power.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between Islamic expansionism and this system that these people have.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Israel is a supremacist state while claiming Islam gives power to reach the top. The Quran teaches that Muslims are racially the best creatures. Quran 3:110. This is the definition of a supremacist ideology. Muslims depend on the Islamic system for their identity and strength. Christians depend on Jesus Christ for power. Muhammad Hijab attacks others for what his own religion practices openly. He believes Muslims deserve to be at the very top. The power Muhammad Hijab speaks of is the power of subjugation. He wants a world where everyone bows to the Islamic God. Christians find strength in weakness and humility, while Muhammad Hijab seeks the strength of the proud and the many.
We can only understand dehumanization through racism. The West has been lecturing us and the rest of the world about equality and race, and yet they're acquiescent to the greatest racial apartheid that's happened probably in the last 100 years. One of the strongest points that we can put to our interlocutors in this case is ask them if they're racist. Do you accept that there's discrimination based on race in Israel? And you can cite, for example, right of return law, Aliyah, and this, that. Is this racism or not? Because if racism is bad and Israel's doing racism, therefore Israel is bad.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Israel practices racism that the West should not support. This is why the West supports Israel. It recognizes the danger of the Islamic alternative. Muhammad Hijab wants the West to abandon its only democratic ally. The Quran is inherently racist by claiming Muslims are the best of creation and non-believers are the worst. Quran 98:6. Muhammad Hijab uses the language of the West to attack a nation that is surrounded by Islamic hostility and hatred. Christians understand that the hatred for Israel is a religious mandate for Muhammad Hijab. He uses the label of racism to hide his own theological bigotry. The West supports Israel because it values freedom over the restrictive laws of Islam.
Whenever the Muslim people have been successful is when they have united. And whenever they have been divided, they have been the biggest failures known to man. The laughing stock of the ummah, of the communities and the nations. For example, the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. They brought in their Lawrence of Arabia, who is a man who was a spy, a British spy, who tried to create rifts and divisions between the Arabic people and between the Turkish people. And this happened. And this is one of the major reasons why the Ottoman Empire collapsed. And when the Ottoman Empire collapsed, what happened straight after, even before its collapse? Guess what happened? You had the British Mandate for Palestine. Britain, the United Kingdom, Great Britain in the year 1922 colonized Palestine. It colonized Jerusalem. We only win when we unite.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Muslims only win when they unite. This focus on numerical unity for success reveals the political nature of Islam. Muslims rely on collective strength and numbers to achieve their goals of worldly dominance and religious influence. Christians believe that true success is not based on numbers but on unity in Jesus Christ. Our victory is spiritual and eternal, regardless of our political power. We do not need a global caliphate to prove that our God is sovereign. The Quran encourages this communal strength to overcome non-believers. However, a unity built on legalism and political ambition is fragile. Christians find their strength in the person of Jesus Christ, whose power is made perfect in our human weakness.
Do it to the white man, you're a terrorist. You do it to the Palestinian, what do they call it? Self-defense. Collateral damage. Human shields. This is the lamest excuse I've ever heard. The human shields excuse. The worst argument known to man. I don't even know how they came with that argument. They must have been sitting down on a table and speaking with each other, drinking something, smoking something, talking, said, how are we going to explain that we're killing so many civilians? So just call them human shields. The other one says, but how can we call them human shields when there's 30,000 Hamas and there's 2 million civilians? It's mathematically impossible for each of them to say, look, when you keep repeating the lie, as Goebbels said, it becomes the truth. Keep saying it. Doesn't matter. I know it's false. Just keep saying it. Don't worry about it. Human shields. It's ridiculous how they're using this word. Human shield. A dehumanizing term.
Muhammad Hijab underscores the unfairness of narratives in Gaza, denying that Hamas members merge into civilian populations. He ignores the documented reality that Islamic militants often use human shields. Muhammad Hijab remains in denial about these tactical choices of Hamas. Christians condemn all atrocities committed by any side, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. However, the fact remains that Muslims are mandated by the Quran to fight non-believers. Quran 9:5. This conflict is deeply religious, moving far beyond mere regional geopolitics. The hatred found in the Quran toward the Jews fuels this perpetual cycle of violence. Muhammad Hijab tries to frame it as a double standard. But he cannot ignore the scriptural mandates that drive Islamic groups to seek Israel's total destruction.
70,000 Ukrainian soldiers were killed. Some of the liberal estimates say 200,000. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, 70,000, no problem. Of them, 9,600 civilians were killed, which means that is 14% of the total people who were killed were civilians. So if that ratio is unacceptable to the West, why is the ratio of 100 to 1 minimum? For every one Hamas, they kill 100 civilians. How could that be acceptable? If, I guarantee you, Vladimir Putin did anything close to that, it would be called a Holocaust. It would be called not just a genocide. The most harsh superlatives would be used to describe this situation.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that the West accepts deaths in Gaza while rejecting those in Ukraine. He denies that the Gaza conflict involves a terrorist group hiding among civilians. In Ukraine, the war is between two conventional military states and armies. Muhammad Hijab should condemn all ideologies of hatred, rather than simply counting the number of kills for his narrative. Since Hamas bases its ideology on the Qur'an, Muhammad Hijab will always favor them regardless of the tactics they choose to use. Christians mourn the loss of all innocent lives in every conflict. We recognize that Islamic ideology often places civilians in harm's way for the sake of martyrdom. Muhammad Hijab's bias prevents him from seeing the role his religion plays here.
As the Qur'an tells us, come together on good deeds and piety, and do not come together on sin and transgression. Meaning, the Muslim community must be able to see the bigger picture. The Muslim community cannot afford at this time or any time from now onwards to bicker and to differ. Allah says in the Qur'an, hold tightly to the rope of Allah all together and do not divide. Does that mean that we are all going to be the same? No, it doesn't. Everyone is going to be different. There are 2 billion Muslims in the world. You can't have everyone as the same. People are going to have differences of opinion. However, if we let those differences become the prioritized differences, then we become an easy target for anyone and everyone.
Muhammad Hijab calls for the Muslim community to hold tightly to Allah's matter. This is a call for Islamic dominance as described in the Quran. He is advocating for a focus on making the religion of Allah superior over others. The Quran commands Muslims to fight until there is no more fitna and religion is all for Allah. Quran 8:39. Muhammad Hijab's call for unity is a call for a global struggle to impose Islamic law on all of mankind. Christians seek to hold tightly to the gospel of grace. We do not seek to dominate the world through force or political pressure. Muhammad Hijab's bigger picture is a world where everyone is forced to submit to the Islamic God.
Jewish people ran to the Ottoman Empire for safe haven. In 1492, when the expulsion of the Muslims and Jews took place, and the Inquisition took place. And what did the Ottomans do? Did they kill them? Did they enslave them? No, they did not. That is ahistorical. They gave them a space to worship, to believe, and so on. And before the Ottomans, even in the Spanish inhabited Muslim area or areas, you find that some of the greatest Jewish thinkers of all time, like Musa bin Maimonides existed. And he produced his best works under Muslims. In fact, the enlightenment of the Jews, the golden age of the Jewry took place under Muslim rule. So one cannot say that in fact that the Muslims and Jews had this horrible relationship. Yes, of course, there were times when Muslims and Jews went to war. But that was, I will put to you, that was the historical exception and not the rule. The rule was, for hundreds of years, Muslims had protected Jewish people.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Jews can live with Muslims, citing the Ottoman Empire as a protective example. This is only a half-truth. While they could live, they were forced into subjugation and required to pay the jizya tax. The Quran demands that the people of the book pay jizya while feeling themselves subdued. Quran 9:29. Muslims never offered true equality to non-Muslims. Christians recognize that this protection was actually a form of institutionalized humiliation for all. Muhammad Hijab tries to paint a picture of tolerance. But it was a state of second-class citizenship. Muslims are mandated to fight and subjugate non-Muslims until they submit. True peace requires equality, which the Islamic legal system fundamentally rejects.
Zionism and Nazism are very similar. They're both nationalistic, They're both racially predicated, and they had exactly the same vision. They wanted to see a country full of people that homogenous. That's their vision. It's a racist vision. And now you have an apartheid state, and you have people who claim to be liberals or even neoconservatives who support the state of Israel. What is our job and what do? We must expose the terroristic and the racial nature of the Israeli government. If there was an organization just in exposing this narrative, for me, if I was putting my money in something, I'd put it into that. And I think the people of Palestine would appreciate that the most, because that will be most likely to have an effect, a policy effect, which will eventually lead to some kind of relief.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Israel is terroristic and racist. He should first point out the terroristic and racial teachings within the Qur'an. Allah describes non-believers as the worst of creatures, Qur'an 98:6, which is the root of bigotry. Christians understand the fallen nature of all humans, which is why Jesus Christ must transform people. We are united to him by faith, not by a racial or religious superiority complex. Muhammad Hijab's accusations are a deflection from Islamic flaws. The hatred for the Jews in the Quran is the ultimate form of religious racism. Muhammad Hijab uses modern political terms to attack others, while his own book contains the most intense expressions of enmity. Only Christ can remove such deep-seated hatred.
If you look at the history of Muslims and Jews, starting with the conquest of Jerusalem in 638 by Umar ibn al-Khattab, he allowed the Jews to settle back into Jerusalem. And for those who know ancient history will know that there was something called the Siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD, where the Jews were literally kicked out of their homes at the hands of the Romans. SubhanAllah, how history repeats itself. But now the perpetrators have become the victims, and the victims have become the perpetrators. Now it's not the Roman Empire kicking out the Jews from Judea. Now it's the opposite. Now it's the Jews kicking out the Muslims from Palestine, the original inhabitants. But let that be a side note for now. 638, you had peaceful collaboration. You had a system where Muslims, Christians, and Jews all lived side by side. There was no genocide. There was no forced religious conversion. There was giving to the Jews and to Christians and to other communities a right to basically rule by what they believe in.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Muslims were tolerant when they conquered Jerusalem. This conquest was not about being nice to the Jewish people. Muslims subjugated the Jews and took their holy sites to build mosques as a sign of total dominance. Muhammad Hijab tries to paint a narrative that favors his Islamic bias. The historical reality is one of conquest and the displacement of previous religious authorities. The tolerance he speaks of was always conditional upon the Jews remaining inferior subjects. Christians see the Islamic expansion as a history of the sword. Muhammad Hijab's attempt to sanitize the past ignores the millions who suffered under Islamic rule. The goal was always the supremacy of Allah's law over every other faith.
Israeli authorities have been exposed for trying to ethnically cleanse since the advent of the so-called State of Israel in May 1948. The areas of Palestine from the Arab peoples. This is their agenda. And why and how do we know that? We know that from the records, from the days in which the very early State of Israel had plans, like Plan Elif and Plan Bet and Plan Gimel, and not to forget the most important, severe of them all, Plan Dalit, which explicitly mentions the intention of the Israeli government or the Israeli authorities to try and get rid of, quite frankly, as many of the Palestinians as possible. And they're very clear about those objectives. Only someone who is deluding themselves and who doesn't know history would pretend that that is not happening in that area. Historians now look at these records like Plan Dalit and have concluded that this was the intention and is the intention of the Israeli authorities all along.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Jews are trying to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. He fails to mention the Hamas Charter, which calls for the total destruction of Israel. This hatred is mandated by the Quran and its instructions for holy war. These are the tragic facts of a fallen world that has rejected Jesus Christ. There will be no end to this conflict through political means alone. Christians believe that only the Prince of Peace can provide a solution to this crisis. The hatred Muhammad Hijab promotes is fueled by a book that views Jews as a perpetual enemy. Hamas is merely following the path laid out by the Prophet. Without Christ, the world is trapped in a cycle of religious vengeance.
we don't want to be religious. We've had enough of religion. Look at what religion has done to society and these things. We don't want to believe in God. Say, okay, no problem. Don't believe in God. We'll see what happens. You don't have to argue. Say, no problem. Do what you want. Whoever wants to can believe, whoever wants to can disbelieve. We believe that if you have been given the message and you deny it, then you will go to the hellfire and you'll burn forever. Actually, that's what will happen to you. And there's only one way of finding out. When we die, we're going to find out. وَقَالُوا إِنْ هِيَ إِلَّا حَيَاتُنَا الدُّنْيَا نَمُوتُ وَنَحْيَا وَمَا يُهْلِكُنَا إِلَّا الدَّهْرُ. That they say it's only our life of this world. We're going to live and die, and only the time will destroy us. وَمَا لَهُمْ بِذَلِكَ مِنْ عِلْمٍ. What kind of knowledge they have of this? إِنْهُمْ إِلَّا يَظُنُّونَ. They only guess.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that those who deny the Islamic message will go to the hellfire. However, Islamic sources indicate that everyone will first go to hell, Qur'an 1971. Muslims must hope that Allah decides to pull them out later. In Jesus Christ, hell is already defeated for the believer. Christians will no longer see the fire of hell because Jesus Christ takes us straight to God. We have an assurance of salvation that is completely absent in the Islamic faith. The Islamic message is one of uncertainty and fear. Muhammad Hijab threatens others with a destination that even he cannot be sure to avoid. Christians rest in the finished work of the cross, where our eternal security was bought forever.
This completely debunks the Trinity, completely destroys the Trinity. If you want an easy way to destroy the Trinity of the Christians, this is one of the best logical ways. Is Jesus all-powerful? Yes, he is. Is the Father all-powerful? Yes, he is. If they go against each other, who's going to win in a fight? Are they going to draw? No, they're not going to draw. Who would fight? Who would win? Jesus or the Father? Come on, ask the Christian. If Jesus wills something and the Father wills something and they are different because they're two different persons, who's going to win? If you say both of them will come together and compromise, then they are both weak.
Muhammad Hijab attempts to debunk the Trinity by asking whether Jesus Christ or the Father is more powerful. He fundamentally misrepresents the Christian faith. Muhammad Hijab is ignorant that the persons of the Trinity share the same power and will. The Trinity is not about who is dominant or more powerful. The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit exist in perfect unity and equality. Muhammad Hijab uses a simplified, flawed logic to attack a mystery he does not even try to understand. Christians worship one God in three persons. Muhammad Hijab's focus on one will as a sign of power shows his misunderstanding of divine love. The Father and Son are one in essence, and their power is shared in eternal harmony.
You've used such a skeptical method to deny the arguments for the existence of God. We expect you to use that same skepticism for everything else in your life. And if you use that same skepticism for everything else in your life, you will simply have nothing. You will simply believe in nothing. You cannot be a feminist and believe in feminism if you are an atheist that rejects these arguments. Because feminism does not have any underlying principles which root it from bottom up. Same thing with liberalism. Same thing with communism. They all have attempts, but they don't have anything solid. Certainly not as solid as the cosmological.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that skeptics should apply the same skepticism toward everything. Muhammad Hijab should apply this standard to Islam by questioning the Quran's commands to fight and subjugate non-believers. Why does he not scrutinize the violent mandates of Allah? He should also apply this skepticism toward child marriage within the Quran and Sunnah. Even Aisha commented on how readily Allah provided for the Prophet's specific desires. This convenience suggests a human origin rather than a divine revelation for all. Christians observe that Muhammad Hijab is only skeptical of other faiths. He ignores the moral problems within his own book. If he were truly consistent, he would find the instructions for domestic violence and warfare to be completely unacceptable for God.
I'll give you some modern predictions that relate to today's world. The Prophet Muhammad in the hadith said that there will come a time where people will be walking around, musical instruments will be playing on their heads. Just say it's talking about headphones. Easy.
And that's in the original Qur'an.
It's not the Qur'an, it's the hadith.
Is it a separate text?
Yes. I'll give you another example. That the Prophet Muhammad said that the barefooted shepherds, they're going to... Barefooted shepherds means Arabs, Bedouin Arabs, that have got no shoes on, basically. Yeah? They're going to compete in tall buildings. Now, where are the tallest buildings in the world?
Freedom Tower in New York?
No. It's the Burj Khalifa.
Burj Khalifa.
Right. And who's the one who made that? If you look at these guys, their dress code. They're Arabs. They probably wear sandals or probably not even wear shoes at all. And look at Dubai, how it was 50 years ago. This is clear. I think this is very clear.
Any examples where the predictions were wrong?
This is the thing. There isn't. This is finding a contradiction challenge. There isn't.
Has it ever been amended or edited?
No, that's the point.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that fulfilled prophecies of the Prophet are detailed within the Hadiths. However, these collections were compiled centuries after the events, making them unreliable historical sources. They are too late to prove any genuine foresight from the Prophet. Even if these reports were authentic, the readings are far too vague to be considered fulfilled prophecies. The tall buildings prophecy is a prime example of this ambiguity. The buildings in Dubai were not built by barefooted impoverished Arab shepherds. Christians rely on the specific and timely prophecies of the Bible. Muhammad Hijab uses late traditions to create a narrative of miracles. This failure to provide contemporary evidence shows that his claims of prophetic foresight are merely based on legendary developments.
We must realize that victory is coming. 100% is coming, insha'Allah ta'ala. We, as the Muslims, have to show that we are worthy of the victory. And then Allah will shower us with His mercy. All Allah wants to see from us is resolve, is patience, is faith. The moment we do that at a level which is acceptable to Allah as the Muslim people, then what will happen is وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. We will enter the masjid again. And that masjid here is Masjid al-Aqsa.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that victory for Muslims is coming, and they must prove themselves worthy. This shows that Muslims rely on their own works for Allah's acceptance. It is a system of merit where the outcome is always uncertain. In contrast, Christians are already victors because of the finished work of Jesus Christ. Our acceptance by God is not based on our performance but on Christ's sacrifice. We do not work for victory, we work from a position of victory. Muhammad Hijab promotes a life of ritualistic stress to earn a favor that is never guaranteed. The Qur'an offers no assurance of salvation for the believer. Christians rest in the secure love of God provided through the cross of Jesus.
After months and months of conflict, that fatigue starts to kick in. That we become tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. But really, we must refuse to be desensitized to the situation. There is a balance that one must strike between, on the one hand, not being obsessed and fixated with this situation in Palestine, and on the other hand, not caring, being desensitized. That this is where the test is at. This is where the fight is at. It's really at the later rounds, if you want to put it that way, where we can see the resolve, the resilience, the perseverance, the patience of the people. Which means that just as in the beginning, when we were seeing these bombs being dropped on the innocent people, the children, when we were seeing images and videos of fathers holding bags of their own children, chopped up into little pieces, showcasing it in front of the world, and how that made us feel sickened and saddened, that we must never be able to forget or be indifferent to that struggle.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Muslims should not get desensitized to the bad things happening in Palestine. Muhammad Hijab suggests that Muslims should dwell on these tragedies to promote hatred. This mindset keeps the soul in a state of bitterness. The Holy Scriptures say that in Christ, Christians must think on things that are pure, lovely, and of good report. If we face issues, we draw near to God for peace. We never cultivate a heart of religious hatred. Muhammad Hijab uses suffering as a tool for mobilization and anger. This reflects the Quran's focus on conflict with the enemies of Allah. Christians seek the peace of God, which protects the heart from the poison of perpetual worldly resentment.
The Islamic tradition doesn't say just believe. It doesn't say that. It says, first of all, be exposed to the evidences of Islam, understand the theories of Islam, and if you are convinced, then problems of justice or problems of evil, all of those will be resolved. What we are provided with from an Islamic perspective is evidence, different kinds of evidence. When the human being has been exposed to the evidences, now they have an epistemological base. When you have an epistemological base, you have reason to believe. When you have reason to believe, the concepts make sense. We have reason to understand the Day of Judgment actually is the Day of Judgment. Heaven is actually a true place that exists. Hell is actually a true place that exists. From that angle, we have resolution to the problem of evil.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Muslims do not blindly believe, and that Islam requires evidence. This contradicts the very meaning of the word Islam, which is submission. There are many Quranic verses telling Muslims to obey without questioning the messenger. Allah warns Muslims not to ask about things that would trouble them if revealed. Quran 5:101. This is a direct command for blind adherents. Muhammad Hijab claims to value inquiry, but his book actively discourages it when it becomes uncomfortable. Christians are encouraged to test everything and hold fast to what is good. Muhammad Hijab's religion demands the total surrender of the intellect to the 7th century traditions. His claim of intellectual freedom is a mask for a deep scriptural dogmatism.
Anything that God says is moral.
Absolutely.
How do you know what God said?
We said that we have revelations aforetime, the final revelation is the Qur'an. It has a viability test. I gave you 4 things: preservation, inimitability, contradictions, and I also taught you about predictions of the Qur'an and the Sunnah. Now, in order for you to say that the Qur'an is false, you have to falsify it. Like a scientist would have to falsify a theory in order for them to say that that is wrong. Now, if you can't produce any evidence for that, then really you can only remain agnostic on the issue.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that the Quran is falsified if one disproves its preservation or finds contradictions. Regarding preservation, the best scholars can trace is the Uthmanic Codex. This version was created after Uthman burned all the original, differing manuscripts. Inimitability is a fallacy since the Quran borrowed many wordings and stories from previous scriptures and folklore. Furthermore, there is a clear contradiction between Quran 478 and 479. One verse says, "All is from Allah," the next blames man. Christians see that the Quran is a product of human compilation and editing. Muhammad Hijab sets a challenge that his own book fails to meet. The historical and internal evidence proves that the Quran is not a perfectly preserved, divine miracle.
This is what atheism leads you to. Contradictory set of propositions. Either you have your cake or you want to eat it. What are you going to do with it? Tell me now, did the universe come from nothing? If so, how so? Is the universe a necessary existence? If so, how so? Is it eternal? You could say no, there's a multiverse or there's an eternal fabric. But a multiverse has the propensity of being any other way. A possible existence or a contingent existence is defined by being able to be rearranged in any other way. If it can be arranged in another way, it's not necessary. It's possible or contingent. So a multiverse cannot be necessary existence because it can be arranged in another way. It can be out of existence. If you say that there's a necessary existence, you cannot say you're an atheist from an Islamic perspective. And from a philosophical one, because the necessary existence is the Islamic definition of God. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, say He is one and only. The self-sufficient, the independent, meaning the necessary existence. لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ, He begets not, nor is He begotten, meaning He's eternal.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that the necessary existence is the Islamic definition of God. However, the Islamic God is inconsistent. If Allah was alone from eternity, He cannot be all-loving, as He had no one to love before He created. Allah is not self-sufficient. He repeatedly calls for help from Muslims to support His cause. Quran 47:7. He also claims He cannot have a son without a mate, which limits His divine power. This definition is logically and spiritually flawed. Christians believe the Trinity is the most consistent definition of God. God is love because He is an eternal relationship of Father, Son, and Spirit. Muhammad Hijab's God is a lonely monad who depends on his creation for his glory.
You are devil! So I think you should take that seriously.
Okay.
You're devil.
Whoa.
You're shaitan. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
I should be the one that's spitting in your direction.
So in Ramadan,
Yeah.
you're going to be locked up.
Muhammad Hijab laughs when someone calls him the devil. The Holy Scripture is clear that a tree is known by its fruits. One must wonder why Muhammad Hijab finds such a serious accusation to be a source of great amusement. His fruits include the promotion of a book that justifies violence and the subjugation of others. This is not the fruit of the Holy Spirit. Muhammad Hijab's laughter in the face of moral criticism shows a lack of spiritual gravity. Christians seek to reflect the light of Jesus Christ in all their interactions. Muhammad Hijab's demeanor is often aggressive and prideful. If the world sees the darkness in his message, his laughter will not change the reality of his spiritual state.
Wow!
Yes.
Imagine living life by a man wrote book.
Are you sure it was a man that wrote that comment and not a boy?
Did you ask his pronouns? I think you should apologize.
No,
you
no,
apologize to it. He's referring to the Quran. He's mocking the fact that we as Muslims live by the book.
The thing is, you're making an assertion that we obviously don't believe it's a man-made book. We believe this is a book from God. We're convinced with the evidences. Most people are living by the ideas of other people. And Abraham in the Quran, he said, what if I come to you with something which is more in guidance than what your parents came with? So in other words, there has to be an arbiter, because all of us are going to follow our parents or our societies or whatever. And the arbiter has to be the truth. In other words, we have to care more about the truth than we do about following our tribal instinct of parents, culture, society, etc.
Muhammad Hijab asserts that Muslims do not believe the Quran is man-made. This is the definition of blind faith. A book that instructs child marriage and the beating of wives cannot be from a holy and loving God for all. A book that instructs adultery by allowing multiple wives and sex with captives is not divine. A book that commands followers to fight, subjugate, and kill non-believers lacks the character of the Creator. These are clearly the works of men. Christians judge a revelation by the holiness it produces. The Quran reflects the social and political desires of its human author. Muhammad Hijab's refusal to see these human fingerprints proves that his faith is based on tradition, not truth.
The Prophet ﷺ said, there's 12 sects of Shia, 11 will be in hell, only one will be in heaven.
SubhanAllah.
And just like the Muslims are split into 73 sects,
Yes.
the Shia are split into 12 sects. One will be in heaven, the 11 will be in hell. So
yeah.
that's
So
why
the 73 plus 12, or how do we do this? How do we do the calculation here? I like this yellow style that you've got here. Where did you get your inspiration from? A chick?
No, it's chick.
You get a white jacket and throw eggs on yourself, huh? What should I call you? Bumblebee? Huh?
No,
Modine, Mo Bumblebee.
No, Muhammad. Listen to me. Muhammad.
Muhammad Hijab downplays the fact that there are many sects in Islam. He cannot ignore that these divisions invalidate the claim that the Quran is a clear book. If it were clear, Muslims would not be killing each other. The existence of Sunni Shiites and Ahmadis proves the ambiguity of the Islamic text. Christianity acknowledges divisions among believers because we have free choice. Islam claims a perfect unity that does not exist in the real world of its history. Christians find unity in the person of Jesus Christ, even across different denominations. Muhammad Hijab tries to hide the chaos of Islamic sectarianism. This lack of clarity proves that the Quran has failed to provide a unified path for man. Hi again, I hope you enjoy the review on logical reactions on how confused Muhammad Hijab is on his Islamic views. Please tune in for another volumes of logical reactions. Please let us know your thoughts in the comment.
Thinking with Logical Christ.